أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الخلق وأعز المرسلين حبيب قلوب العالمين أبي القاسم محمد
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد
وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين وصحبه المنتجبين واللعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم إلى قيام يوم الدين. Maulana, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Well, this evening we'll discuss the true meaning of life and how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, His messengers and the progeny of Ahlul Bayt describes it in the hope of reminding us of how to treat this temporary life. Some of what I'm going to discuss tonight, we've brought up some light to them throughout these past nights. As we all know, this life in which we live in is a remarkable place. On the outside, it looks so beautiful, fascinating, and captivating. Its ability to attract is astonishing. However, when we pass through it, we see and hear other people's experiences and what happened in the past and what's happening today to us and others, and listen to testimonies about it, we realize how empty, ugly, worthless, dirty, and disgusting it is. Now, you might say these are strong words, but when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the Prophet talks about it, these considered to be nothing. Yes, it has pleasures, but are very short and limited. They are brief, its beauty is temporary, it only lasts the length of a lifetime. And the length of a lifetime is described by the Prophet Noah, who lived a very long life compared to ours. Some say, well, we know for sure it's over 1,000 years old. He says when Gabriel asked him to describe life, he said, it's like a place with two doors. I entered from one door and got out from the other. And we're talking about 1,000 plus. He described it as a passage, a transit place. Others said it is as if you're passing through, like a traveler or a guest. Ad-dunya daru mamar, ma'bar, a passageway, a bridge, as Imam Hussein said. Kantara. Rasulullah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes it as an animal corpse, jifa, a dead animal. It stinks, has a foul smell. We only find it in garbage, not any garbage. It's away from inhabited places where people cannot stand the smell and the look. People would run away from it if we were to see it in our own eyes. That's what Rasulullah said about it. This life, we know it as painful, full of illnesses, wars, and so on. Amir al-Mu'minin alayhi salam says, "Ma asifu fi dunya awwaluha ana." How do I describe a life that starts with complications? The mother suffers from pregnancy to delivery, a life that starts with the complication of that, and then the baby is taken away from his world and born into another world. And he says, وَآخِرُهَا شَقَاء. It ends with difficulties. We go through, if you look at your own self, just what you know about you and the people around you. We go through problems, disasters, calamities, many changes throughout. There's nothing stable. We can never trust this life for anything. And on top of all this, we know that death is chasing us. It's behind us. Think for a moment of what you know about your experience about others, and the history to today. Start, for example, with the news. When you watch the news. From all that we hear, you'll be lucky to hear one or two positive news. You'll be very lucky if you do. The rest is mainly problems, killings, or death, attacks, theft, and so on. God has created this life this way for a reason. God says in the Holy Book, Surah Al-An'am and Surah Al-Ankabut, وَمَا الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا إِلَّا لَعِبٌ وَلَهْوٌ كَفِّ أَفَلَا تَعْقِلُونَ وَمَا الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا إِلَّا لَعِبٌ وَلَهْوٌ. And this life of the world is only amusement and play, just like a childish game. So why getting angry? and argue about worldly things. He goes on about it in Surah Al-Hadid. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. He says, اعلموا أنما الحياة الدنيا لعب ولهو وزينة وتفاخر بينكم إلى أن يقول وما الحياة الدنيا إلا متاع الغرور. He says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, know that the life of this world is but amusement and diversion and adornment, decoration. And he continues to say, and the worldly life is the enjoyment of delusion. And who is saying this? The one who created it. What a testimony. What would you need more than that? فَلَا تَغُرَّنَّكُمُ الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا. This is in the Quran. Don't let it deceive you. So always this life introduces itself in another fashion. Not its true nature. It gives us hope, promises. It's like a thirsty person who drinks from the seawater. The more he drinks, the more he gets thirstier. It's full of decoration, dreams, where it's full of disappointment and sadness. And yet, we believe in it. There's a hadith that God has created this life. They said, God has created this life and He detested it because He allowed people to betray Him. And this is something I heard from a scholar who was talking about this specific topic, and he mentioned the same exact thing. He allowed people to betray Him in this world, allowed them to curse Him. God allowed killing to happen with no rights, allowed to kill His messengers the way they were killed, His prophets, His progeny, true believers, what's going on around us. God has no place for this life in His eyes. I think that's pretty much enough. I'll move on to say that this life is created for a purpose, to fulfill a duty. I call it dirty task, just to summon the true believers who will get away from its traps and tricks. So you have to think above all what it has to offer, because it has a value. If it has a value in His eyes, He would never allow such a thing. Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq alayhi salam says, and I like this, is really, really good. One who spends his days and nights in such a way, what I mean by, he says, to obtain the world, that would be his greatest sin. Why? Because Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He puts poverty and difficulties between His two eyes and makes His matter difficult. Even worse, He would get only as much share of the world as it destined for him. On the contrary, he says, and for the one who spends his days and nights while his greatest aim is to achieve the hereafter, the Almighty Allah gives needlessness to his heart and completes his affairs for him. No wonder all the people who wrote to Imam al-Hussein, and we've heard it in the past nights, and we know the stories about them changing their minds, all of it was based on the love of life in some form. Dr. Zay talked about it, Basira, and he talked about life, love of life, whether the love of wealth, position, family, kids. As the Prophet and his progeny had said, "Ad-dunya ra'su kulli khatiya." Life is the head of all sins, the head of all problems. So just as the love of the world is the basis of every sin, in the same way, the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and all those associated with Him is the cause of every good deed. Imam Hussein states, alayhi salam, "Inna dunya hulwuha wa murruha hulu." He says, this life, whether it's the sweet moments, the bitter moments, it's good days or bad days, at the end of the day, the Imam says, it's nothing but a passing dream. And then we die. That is when you wake up, as the commander of the faithful Ali alayhi salam states, "An-nasu niyam," people are asleep, they are chasing a dream, they fight, they argue, engage in conflicts and wars, and all the lies, the deceptions, all the hurtful statements, all the oppression, all the injustice, all that is nothing but a dream. It's worthless. فَإِذَا مَاتُوا انْتَبَهُوا. When they die is when they actually wake up. So this is the true reality of this life. It's a place to test us. Daru imtihan. كل نفس ضائقة الموت وإنما توفون أجوركم يوم القيامة. There is no true rewards or punishment in this life. We might see some rewards, some punishment, but these are not the ultimate. We're not staying here forever. The ultimate reward and punishment is in the hereafter. So the crucial question, brothers and sisters, is what is my faith? Ask yourself. What's my faith in the hereafter? Am I ready when my time comes? Am I ready when Imam Mahdi أرواحنا له الفداء عجل الله تعالى فرج appears? Am I ready to sacrifice all that I have? Kids, wife, family, home, business, money, everything for his support and answer his call. Am I ready for that? Because Al-Qasim did the exact same thing. When Abu Abdullah Hussein came out on the day of Ashura and said, ألا هل من ناصر ينصرنا لوجه الله ألا هل من داب يذب عن حرم رسول الله. He said, is there no one to help us for the sake of Allah? I am the grandson of the messenger. No one to help protect us. We're the family of the Prophet. So when no one answers that call, suddenly a young boy emerged from the tent calling out, Labbayka ya Amma. Oh uncle, here I am. Al-Qasim approaches his uncle. He asks him for permission to leave, to fight, to protect him. However, unlike everyone else whom the Imam will give permission reluctantly, this was the only time Al-Imam refused to give permission to someone. He said, you're my nephew. You're the orphan of Hassan. How could I give you permission when I know you'll be killed? What does Al-Qasim do? What would you do? Al-Qasim remembered that he was the one who told his uncle just the night before, when Imam said that everyone will be killed. Al-Qasim says, how will they kill Abdullah Radiya? How will they kill the infant when there is blood in my vein? Will I also be killed? He asked. Hussein alayhi salam says, Bunay. In the Arabic language, Bunay, it's like saying, honey, sweetie. The Imam is addressing his orphan nephew. He says, Bunay, كيف الموت عندك? How do you see death? He says, Ya Am, fika ahla min al-asal. In your way, it is sweeter than honey. Now, this was not just a statement Al-Qasim made that night. He proved it with his actions the next day. I'm going to turn off the light. The day of Ashura, when the Imam refused to give him permission, what do you think he did? فَأَلْقَى الْغُلَامُ بِنَفْسِهِ يُقَبِّلُ قَدَمَيْهِ. He threw himself kissing his uncle's feet and said, أُقَبِّلُ قَدَمَكَ يَا عَمْ إِذَنْ لِي فِي الْبِرَازِ. Now, the question would be, are we willing to embrace death in the sake of Imam Mahdi like this? If he said, no, I don't want you to be in my army, are we willing to beg him to allow us to be in his army? So when Al-Qasim did this, Abu Abdullah got up and then Al-Qasim got up and began kissing his uncle's hands. Abu Abdullah took him from under his arms and raised him up and said to him, do not do this to me. And after a while, he finally gave him permission. فَأَعْتَنَقَا. They embraced and بَكَيَا بُكَاءً مُرًّا. They cried and cried. حَتَّى سَقَطَا مَغْشِيَا عَلَيْهِمَا, they say, until they lost consciousness. When they woke up, Imam Hussein alayhi salam said, well, when they woke up, Imam took a piece of cloth. Some say it's an amama, some say it's a piece of cloth, and cut it into half. So two halves. He wrapped one on Al-Qasim's head and the other he wrapped around his chest. But why would the Imam do this? Knowing it won't protect him from swords and spears. Well, because he was too young to wear a helmet. He was too young to wear any armor. He simply wrapped a piece of cloth around his head to make him look a little older, so that they don't attack him directly. The boy bid farewell to his mom and everyone else and started to go toward the battlefield. But how does he go? Did he walk toward his death? No, he is the son of Al-Hassan. He sprints toward the battlefield. وَهُوَ يُهَرْوِلُ إِلَى الْقَوْمِ. The enemy starts to ask, who is this young boy? Did we not kill Hussein's son Ali al-Akbar? We did not know he had a young boy. So Al-Qasim wanted to introduce himself so people would recognize him. He said to them, إن تنكروني فأنا نجل الحسن وابن النبي المصطفى والمؤتمن هذا حسين كالأسير المرتهن. He says, if you do not know me, if you do not know who I am the son of Al-Hassan. I am the son of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And here is my uncle Hussein being imprisoned, not being permitted to drink from the water. May you never drink from the water of paradise. So they surrounded him from every angle. One of them says, this young boy looks like a piece of the moon. He says, Wallahi la athkulanna ammahu bimawtih. My God, I shall not rest until I make his uncle grieve over his death. So he approached him and struck him with his sword over his head. The young boy, like everyone else, he screamed out, Aghithni ya Amma. Oh uncle, come and help me. And Imam Hussein rushed to him. And when he reached the young boy, he struck his killer immediately with his sword, killing him. And when the dust settled, people say, Abu Abdullah was seen standing over the body of Al-Qasim as he was shivering and shaking as he breathed his last. Abu Abdullah called out, Azza wallahi ala ammik an tunadi fala yujibuk. It is difficult for your uncle that you call unto him, but he doesn't respond. وَيُجِيبُكَ فَلَا يُعِينُكَ. Or he responds, but cannot help you. Then they saw him laying next to him. فَوَضَعَ صَدْرَهُ عَلَى صَدْرِهِ. He put the young boy's chest on his chest. He began taking him back to the camp. People say they could see his feet rubbing on the sand. Abu Abdullah could no longer stand upright when taking the young boy. He قال له يا ابني يا جاسم مش بيدي يا ابني يا جاسم مش بيدي ويا ريت السيف قبلك حزو ريدي ويا ريت السيف قبلك حزوري لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. Oh Allah, we ask you in the name of the orphan of Hassan, who was killed in Karbala, to relieve us of the oppression that the followers of Ahlul Bayt are subjected to. Oh Allah, we ask you to take the love of life out of our hearts. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, raise your hands. اللهم ارزقنا شفاعة الحسين يوم الورود وثبت لنا قدم صدق عند الحسين مع الحسين وأصحاب الحسين الذين بذلوا مهجهم دون الحسين عليه السلام. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with Surah Al-Fatiha, but before it with the loudest salawat. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.